Growing up with TreehouseTV, Timothy Goes to School was among the many children's shows I adored watching, and it was actually quite relaxing the more I think about it. My favorite character from the show, and perhaps one of my favorite animated characters in general, was always the little Japanese kid in Yoko. She had always stood out to me from the rest of her classmates, and admittedly, in some ways reminds me of who I was as a child. She is the kindest student in class aside from Timothy, who's also a total sweetheart, and is incredibly calm and friendly toward everyone. You could definitely say that she is rather mature for her young age. However, she also has her limits, and is upfront about her feelings when it comes to speaking up for herself. There are very few things that make her shy, one of which is performing in front of a crowd, and this ties into what I'll talk about and how I can relate to her. I'm glad that Rosemary Wells, the author of the original book series, created a character that is sweet and gentle, though not entirely passive. Sure, there are emotional moments where she feels as though she is alone in her insecurities, but this is true of anyone experiencing those kinds of barriers in real life. The characters who genuinely care for her and recognize her good nature from the beginning always show up to support her, and that made me feel very happy to witness as a child. Of course, her character is an influence that I'll treasure for the rest of my life. But what really cemented her as an inspiration for me as a child are her violinistic abilities. I was small when I first saw the very act of violin playing, interestingly enough, and that was when I watched her perform in the Music Tree episode. I was supposed to start grade 5 when I decided that I wanted to take violin lessons. I was just so enamored of Yoko's graceful demeanor and movements. The beautiful sounds she'd produce on this then foreign instrument to me simply called out to me, telling me that I should learn to play it myself. From then, I had played the violin for about 10 straight years, and given that I was enrolled in the Royal Conservatory program, I took it somewhat seriously in retrospect. Not as seriously as my second instructor did, that's for sure. She had so much hope for me. I did relatively well on my exams, and was apparently a pleasure to listen to at concerts. But for some reason, I'd go through periods when I wouldn't practice that much. And other times, I'd play every night for maybe 2 hours or more. It was, perhaps, a matter of mood and mindset. What might come as a shock is that I never liked playing in front of people, not even my parents. It saddened them greatly, and now that very thought saddens me even more. Very few people outside of my academic circles have heard me play, and they have all praised my playing style. Still, not only was I too shy to perform publicly, but I was also very critical of my own performance skills. At one point, I wanted to play professionally, and felt that no one should have to endure my errors until I could play every piece in my repertoire to perfection. If only I had known how wrong my way of thinking was then. My second instructor started filming my performances when I left the academy I was going to at the time to resume private lessons at her home. This made me even more nervous. Despite the fact that I was no longer training for the RC program and practicing mostly fun, contemporary pieces for pure enjoyment. Eventually, and rather unfortunately, I quit playing altogether once I got accepted to university for my bachelor's degree. I was at level 7, so close to completing the program and potentially becoming an instructor and professional performer myself. You have no idea how much I regret it now. I hope to tell my full story someday, but the most important thing is that I'll become re-influenced by Yoko to get over my apprehension and return to one of my greatest passions, one that still resonantly characterizes every day of my life.